Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast, the show that brings you all the latest insights, thought leadership, and stories from across the mining industry. In today's show, we have Tom Lamb, who's the CEO of Myriad Uranium, who are breathing a new life into the historic Copper Mountain District in Wyoming. A project first drilled by Union Pacific back in the 1970s, but now has revived with a modern tech, modern exploration thinking, and at a time when the US urgently needs domestic uranium. The company's just secured BML approval for its plan of operations, unlocking the ability to drill across key targets like the Lucky Cliff, Gem and Arrowhead, with its 222 boreholes permitted. We're going to discuss what that actually means on the ground, how Myriad is modernising decades of old data, and whether AI is truly moving the needle in exploration, or maybe it may be mainly a buzzword. Plus, with Russian uranium imports now banned, we'll explore whether juniors like Myriad can help fill the supply gap, and how mining-friendly Wyoming really is, and what it can take for the US to rebuild a uranium industry at real scale. Tom, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And as we always start these podcasts off, I just wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your career, maybe from when you graduated back in the day, and how your career has developed to sort of present day.
Fine. I'm a Canadian. I'm from Vancouver. I grew up in Vancouver. I went to university at University of Victoria, not far from Vancouver, studied classics, Greek and Roman, Latin and Greek, and wasn't clear what to do right after that. What do you do with that exactly these days? So I ended up a lawyer. I went to law school, ended up a corporate lawyer, M&A, securities. That was a really great foundation. Enjoyed that. Worked for one of these big law firms. Lots of transactions. And realized that I was an entrepreneur. So as a young lawyer, I left law to be an entrepreneur with a friend from primary school, actually, who was an engineer. We started, the two of us, a company called Gold Group in 2005. We didn't really know exactly what we were doing. We put what little money we had into a bank account, and we tried to figure it out. Well, fast forward 5 years, that company was a small gold producer in Mexico, several projects, worth a few $100 million, and we were on our way. As it became clear that the company was going to be successful, because we had an IPO 5 years later, I started getting invited into other deals. I'd learned so much in an intense trial by fire sort of way. I got invited into other deals. Some were successful. Decided to learn more about what I'd call advanced corporate finance. I went to London Business School, did a master's there, and ended up getting recruited to be on the board of Russia's second largest gold producer at the time, called Uzuralzolota. That was 2012. Moved to Russia, lived near the Kremlin, worked for this big company. It was fascinating. They had 11 mines across Russia, mostly southern Russia and Siberia. Learned some Russian. It was a fabulous experience. 2014, decided to start a project generator in East Africa with a few partners, a banker from London, a PhD mining engineer, East Africa. That led step by step to a company called M2 Cobalt. We formed a company focused on cobalt, East Africa. We built that up. We sold it to Jervois Global. Jervois Global is really an offshoot of Glencore, Glencore's nickel cobalt group. It was an Aussie listed company, Jervois. We merged, or they acquired us. As part of the deal, I became an executive of Jervois, and that was a fabulous adventure too. We took that up from $100 million to 1.3, 1.4 billion. Cobalt came off dramatically after that, but on the way, hopefully we made our investors lots of money. That was a fabulous adventure. I then, after 11 years roughly 11 years, well, maybe 10 years in East Africa, I put a note on my refrigerator, a sticky note that said, "No more Africa, taking a break." Anybody who's done I've lived and worked in Africa, it's intense. A lot can happen day to day. Ups and downs are dramatic. I needed a break, so I went and sat on the beach, had a few margaritas, had the sticker on my refrigerator, and I was taking a break, gathering myself. But a friend of mine here at Myriad Uranium, this company, said, "We have a project in Niger, in West Africa, in the Sahara. It's a really good uranium project. It's next to Dasa. Dasa is the #1 development stage uranium project in the world right now. Fabulous grades, very large scale. And we have so my friend said we have assets right next to it. We have also acreage next to the world's second largest uranium deposit, also in Niger, just down the fault from Dasa, and then a bit north. And also adjacent to Goviex's land. That's Robert Friedland's project. His son was the chairman. So we have fabulous acreage there, but they needed someone who speaks French. I speak French. Someone who knows Africa. So that was me. So I pulled the sticky note off the refrigerator that said "No more Africa." I put it in my desk, said, "Okay, I'll help the company." Pretty soon after that became CEO because it made sense. And I invested a lot of my own money, raised some money into the company through my network. Let's make this company go. It's got great uranium assets. Military coup. Military coup occurs. Time to eject. They're kicking out the Americans and the French and everybody. And so we pivoted to Wyoming, and we got a great deal. Lucky for us, we ended up at this Wyoming Copper Mountain uranium project that has turned out to be 100 times better than we expected. And so here I am. That's basically a version of my journey, my personal journey.
Yeah. I just want to bring you back to talk about your journey from the beginning when you entered the mining industry. You and a friend, and you didn't know anything. Was that a scary time? And also, looking back, do you think that by not knowing anything, your journey has probably gone further than if you actually were maybe a mine engineer or a geologist, where you might always have some certain hesitations as you move things forward?
Absolutely. That's so true. I have a really good friend who used to advise me, why don't you go work for a big mining company and learn the systems from the inside, procedures, what are the big companies doing? Because you'll get training. Actually, it's a bit like me working for one of the big law firms. That was fabulous. I got mentorship. I learned how to do everything at, world-class quality legal work. That actually was very valuable. And if I'd stuck around a few more years, I would probably be a partner at a firm, and the journey would have been very different. And if I had gone to work for a big mining company, I think it changes you. It's very entrepreneurs, I think, because you get analysis paralysis if you know too much and you think too much. In fact, almost everything shouldn't. There are very few things you should do. If you think things through enough, you won't do them. You just won't. And especially in junior mining, because nothing makes sense. I'll just say it. Very few projects succeed. It's extremely tough. It's very tough emotionally. You have to run through brick walls every day, every week. it's the exits are few and far between. It's very stressful. It's you'd never do it if you thought things through, and if I knew too much, then I would absolutely. So anyway, I'm sorry I've gone on and on a little bit about it, but
No,
you're
no, no, no,
exactly
and
right.
that's I know, and you're
Yeah.
what you're saying is probably correct, and things you've been successful in what you've done. And there could be geologists out there, or even mine engineers, whether they're CEOs or mining, junior miners, that wouldn't have maybe got a mine into production, for instance, or made a discovery, because again, overthinking and not then moving, not I suppose taking a having faith in yourself and just moving forward. Because I suppose some people need to know 100% that what they're doing and moving forward is correct. When I suppose sometimes it is risky, 50-50, but you still move ahead. You may then hesitate and not move forward with a particular project.
Connected. I'm connected.
Yeah.
It's great. Absolutely. I'm connected with another deal, and we've got some engineers that maybe may partner with us on that deal, but they're senior engineers. They've worked for have been charging by the hour for decades, each of them, and we want them to be more entrepreneurial and partner with us. But they're going to have to take a chance. But what do they want? They want another study. Then they want a feasibility study. Then let's take another 1,000 samples, and then let's go another level down so that they can actually model things. There's no risk at that point. You spend a lot of money, and you've and time and energy to totally de-risk things. But in the interim, you've lost your momentum, and you've kind of destroyed the upside in a way, like the big upside. What are you going to get? A multiple of 3x, 7x, but where's the 50x? Right? Sometimes you get the right feeling. It looks amazing. You go for it. And your psychology has to be, well, what are we doing here? What's life about for us? There have been many times when I've wished that I had, although not that powerfully, wished that I'd stayed at the law firm, made a great living, been surrounded by really interesting, super smart, dynamic colleagues doing interesting work, because that would be much more stable and predictable. But ultimately you get to what am I really, it's like me on the beach drinking the margarita and taking the "No More Africa" sticker off the refrigerator. What am I doing here? This is got one life to live. Let's go for it. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So you have to, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. One of you can just tell us a little bit more about Myriad Uranium as a company. Give us a snapshot of the business.
Myriad has two main projects in Wyoming, one in New Mexico. Wyoming, again, called the Copper Mountain Uranium Project. We have a 75% earn-in. We're at 50%, but we'll very shortly be at 75%. The project is an old producer. It's got a bunch of old uranium mines from the Cold War. One, Arrowhead, produced 500,000 pounds at 0.15% uranium. It's very nice. There's probably a lot of material still left at that mine. It's in the center of our project. 1970s, Union Pacific and Southern California Edison, which was going to build a bunch of big nuclear power plants in California. They arrived at Copper Mountain, decided to lean in. They spent $85 million US in today's dollars. They drilled 2,000 boreholes and decided it was going to be a huge project. They planned a large-scale conventional uranium mine with an initial resource of, say, 16 million pounds, maybe up to 30 million pounds across 6 pits. Conventional, no deeper than 600 feet, starting at the surface. And, they were going to be off the races. And they estimated the potential in the surrounding zone was maybe 65 million pounds. And then there have been subsequent estimates, which I'll tell you about, U.S. Department of Energy, 1982, that the being the prime one, that the contained uranium in the central area of our project is 245 million pounds of uranium. That's a lot, obviously. And then a bigger area, 655 million pounds of contained uranium. Of course, listenership is pretty expert generally. I think they know that and would get that those aren't 43101, resource reserve numbers. This is 1982. These are 43101 categories. So how much is going to get extracted ultimately is less than that. We have 70% of the acreage related to the 245 million pounds, and currently around 30% of the 655 million pound acreage. But we have most of these, or vast majority of these, the boreholes. So that's a bit of a proxy for where the uranium is too. Great project. We're going to hopefully turn it into a monster. It has the potential to be one of the biggest uranium projects in North America. New Mexico is a very nice project in a basin that probably has up to 45 million pounds. We have nearly all the historic boreholes, about 1,000 boreholes drilled by Gulf Oil and other companies decades ago. Indicated resource and an inferred resource. These are non-43101, maybe adds up to 6 million pounds. And that will be sandstone, ISR, and nice high grades, 0.17 to 0.31%, and vanadium up to 1.64%. Two very nice projects. As a consequence of us being a small company with fabulous projects, we have a great cap table. Top funds have come down from their minimum market cap level requirements all the way down to us to invest. So we've got great funds from Toronto, East Coast US, Switzerland. Some celebrated investors have written big personal checks after sending their technical people into our data room to do a month or two of serious due diligence. So we're on our way. Great. It's going to be a great company. We're building it step by step.
Great. What makes the right time to bring Copper Mountain back? And I suppose what's the difference between your approach compared to back when Union Pacific's work, what they did back in the 1970s?
So technology. We also have unified ownership, first time since 1982. We now have a chance to do something special here. Back in late 1970s, there were three mineralization types at Copper Mountain. They were focused on one, fairly low grade across one structure. We now understand, and actually they learned right at the end of their tenure there, that the high grade uranium and significant volumes of it probably, and I say probably for regulatory reasons, 43101, et cetera, sits in these near vertical faults instead of in a band of low grade uranium kind of near surface. With that insight, we drilled angled holes instead of almost all the historic holes were vertical, which largely missed these near vertical faults. And we believe we have surpassed, and again, people who understand the, JORC and 43101, et cetera, I can't say we've really done way better than they did historically, because it's not correct for me to say that, regulatory reasons. We really feel that we've done way better than they did in the past, because now we understand the deposit, mostly thanks to their work right at the end of their tenure. And then the U.S. Department of Energy work they did, published 1982, and then a lot of subsequent work by Anaconda was there in 1996, 97, but that was just a blip in the uranium price. And then 2006 to 2012, Neutron Energy, which is now Encore, merged together with Encore. Neutron Energy had half of our project. Strathmore, which is sort of the parent gave birth to the F companies, Fission, F3, and all this type of stuff. They had the other half of the project area. They all did significant work at Copper Mountain, but they could never properly advance it. They didn't have unified ownership. They didn't have sustained high uranium price. They did the best they could. And of course, after Fukushima, 2010, 2011, the uranium sector melted away. We have all of their work, their insights, their excitement about the potential for deeper uranium. In the 1970s, Union Pacific Railway, despite 2,000 boreholes, they almost never drilled any deep holes. Their hard deck was 600 feet. We've drilled down to 1,600 feet. We found uranium at 1,495 feet. Anaconda, subsequent to Union's tenure, out to the west, they drilled down to 1,000 feet. They found uranium at 900 and down to 900 some odd feet. Maybe that's connected. We have potential for unconformity mineralization. That's Athabasca style. It's deeper. So we have these new insights. High grade is in these near vertical structures. Potential for deeper uranium. We also have learned that Union Pacific drilled the very easy to access places, and that's how they came up with their estimate of 15 to 30 million for their starter mine, and then 65 million if they include the sort of the prospects that they'd advanced with some drilling. But now we know we can go way beyond that. So the time is now. We have the potential to have this enormous scale project. The northern half is will be probably conventional mining, fractured basement, transitions to sandstone in the south. So the southern half is probably in situ recovery, roll front mineralization. Huge project. And we have technology, which we'll probably talk about a little bit, AI, but also just, much better technology. We're very excited. Potential's huge. I will mention this one other thing. Unlike in the 1970s, we have sent all of our drilling where our probe intercepted uranium. We've sent all that stuff to the laboratory for chemical assay. Turns out there's way more uranium there than anybody thought. That's a whole other thing. They were, for cost reasons, and it was not practical back then for them to assay all this stuff. So where a gamma probe is getting 1,000 parts per million, and probably back in the 1970s they were getting 1,000 parts per million, we are getting 60% higher grades when we assay. When the probe is getting 500 parts per million up to 1,000 parts per million, we're getting 50% higher grades. All this is very important for mining, increases the volume of grade shells, and of course the grade within those shells. So this is, us applying new technology and the ability to assay because the cost is not prohibitive. So we're transforming the project. There's that too. Very exciting.
Talking about obviously technology, obviously Union Pacific left behind a massive amount of obviously drill data, as you mentioned. How are you actually going to modernize that? And I suppose what tools, software, AI methods are obviously proving useful? And what's there still more to talk about when it comes to AI in exploration?
So to get a great answer for the technical folks that might be listening, I'll have to defer to our geologists and the more technical folks. But I'll tell you what I do know, which is we digitize everything, very high definition. We have lots of paper-based data because that's what they generated in the 1970s and early 80s. That includes maps, reports, feasibility studies, microfiche, etc. All that's been scanned into the cloud. And then we do apply AI to, well, first of all, there's the software packages that exist that will layer everything. And but the AI is amazing, and even I can use it. So this is thing that the ChatGPT, Grok, whatever, plus lots of others. Incredible. Say we have a 20,000 cell Microsoft Excel spreadsheet with the geochem results, or surface geochem, and then we have other that are chemical assay results from drilling. The AI is absolutely incredible at inhaling that and delivering insights. It's best that I'm not the one to check all that to make sure it's correct, because I'm a lawyer, finance person. But when the geologists look at it, they go, wow, this is just fabulous. Where, the insights that you can get them in 5 or 10 minutes, right? A lot of these projects would take months for a geologist having to go through all and try and figure out the ratios. and then the AI prompts you. I've analyzed the ratios of all these of the elements, some of them quite obscure, and you'd never expect. But the AI gives you these insights, like this resembles this project in Czech, and you are this distal, you're this far from something very significant. That's what this indicates. Pulls up the academic papers relating to it, gives you all the brings you the data from the old reports that someone has digitized and the AI is able to go access. Absolutely mind-blowing. So AI is very powerful. We're using it. That's an example.
The Bureau of Land Management just approved your plan of operations for Copper Mountain. That's obviously a big regulatory milestone. What does this approval actually allow you to do on the ground? And I suppose also, how does it change the pace or even scale of your exploration plans?
It's a great leap forward. It's very exciting. So we've been approved to drill 222 holes. That's across the project area. That's a big permit. It permits us to drill not just in the core area where there's known mineralization and known deposits, but also the periphery where there are exciting prospects. We know at a lot of those prospects that there have been very exciting holes drilled. We have the coordinates, we have where the drill was pointed, and we're going to go duplicate those. So we're going to bring them alive to the modern audience and confirm for banks and the investing public and analysts that this is real. So what we want to do is we want to take the U.S. Department of Energy estimates of contained uranium, 245 million in the central area, 655 in the broader area, make it real, turn it into 43-101 category resource and ultimately reserve, I hope. Yeah. Very exciting. So a combination of things.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned about the approval of 222 boreholes. I just wonder if you can walk us through how you're going to prioritize, obviously, targets like the Lucky Cliff, Gem, Arrowhead, and what's driving your sequencing, geology, access, logistics, data gaps, and everything else.
So it's an exercise in figuring out what's optimal. We have areas of known mineralization. We want to go verify these concentrations of high-grade uranium so that we can put some holes in those zones. It confirms to the world and for our technical folk that it's there. Then we want to go out to these exciting, more peripheral areas. And Union Pacific back in the 1970s drilled in these areas, 3, 5, maybe up to 20 holes, and categorize them as prospects that are kind of deposits in waiting. We want to elevate them to deposits. So we have 7 known what were categorized as deposits, 15 prospects, and then all these zones that were neglected but were slated for follow-up. So we want to elevate these prospects into the category of deposits, and that'll increase the pounds that are in these 43-101 categories too. Union Pacific went to the areas that were very easy to access to do their drilling. They drilled them, they found uranium, they kept drilling in those areas. A little bit to one side or the other, you've got, for example, canyons that you can still access. You build with a bulldozer, put up the canyon. We could just drill there. Union Pacific didn't get there yet, but they suspected, and we have, because of the historic data, that there's a lot of uranium in those spots. So we're going to go there too. And that's what this permit enables us to do.
What's the potential estimate uranium volume at Copper Mountain?
So we like to point at the very high number. U.S. Department of Energy, Bendix Engineering, 1982, estimated that the contained uranium at Copper Mountain in the district, down to a depth of 600 feet, and you'll recall that we drilled deeper and found deeper uranium, so who knows how much more, 655 million pounds contained uranium at Copper Mountain. We don't have all of that acreage yet, but that's what they estimated, and they used quite a rigorous process, and I invite people who may be curious what their approach was to, you can go to our news releases, download the report. It's a 650-page report of some kind. And more discrete area, central area, of which we have 70%. The estimate is 245 million pounds contained uranium down to 600 feet.
Wyoming has a reputation of as being a mining friendly state, especially obviously to other compared to other US jurisdictions. From your experience so far, is that true? And what's working well on the ground? And what are some of the biggest hurdles you've got to overcome?
Wyoming is a friendly state to mining. Politics there have also evolved very recently to being even more mining friendly. The regulators are very good. They have just approved the CK gold mine. It's a U.S. gold project. It's an open pit project. That's great. So there's an open pit approved in Wyoming recently. I would say there are some wildlife restrictions. So you have to be, there are blackout periods when, for example, it's hunting or mating season for an animal. In particular, I can think of the sage grouse. There are parts of Wyoming where the sage grouse they meet each other and do their breeding. So you can't drill during those times, but you just navigate around those. Takes about, under the regular process, takes about 4 months to get a drill permit. There are some fast track things under the new Trump pushes for faster approvals. Our plan of operations for 222 holes, we chose the longer process, and we're glad we did. We did all the studies, environmental, etc., archaeological, cultural, just to make sure we have all that done properly. So yeah, Wyoming's good, and it's getting better. The regulators contact us periodically to say, how can we help you? We're here to help. That's wonderful. You don't get that very many places.
No, that's good to hear.
Yep.
With the US banning Russian uranium imports, is there a real push to rebuild the domestic supply? And how ready is the industry to meet that demand? And where does, I suppose, Myriad fit into, obviously, the bigger picture? And I suppose just lastly, following on from that, I suppose, do junior miners have a real shot at filling that gap, or does the system need to change to make that possible?
First of all, politics has evolved inside the U.S., the White House, et cetera. They now want to produce everything inside the U.S. that they possibly can. Part of the reason is security. Obviously, there's rare earths issue with China, et cetera. Geopolitics, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Russia, China. 40 to 44% of the world's uranium is produced by Kazakhstan, and then a lot of it is processed in Russia, converted, upgraded, and then the fuel is, a lot of it for U.S. reactors is made and exported out of St. Petersburg, Russia. So that is because of geopolitics. That's going to change now. U.S. is leaning into, and this is private investment. This is government. This is U.S. Department of Defense, Department of Energy. These are states. Everybody is leaning in to increase what is done domestically inside the U.S., and that goes all the way down to sourcing of uranium. So it's all happening. You want to, in fact, so this is perfect for a junior like ours. We have this huge, and insert 43101 disclaimer, but huge uranium endowment. We are in the best state. I think 4 out of 5 producing uranium projects are in Wyoming currently, and it produces the most of America's uranium production right now. You want to be in a good state inside the U.S. with a big uranium endowment. So a junior like Myriad is really well positioned for exactly what's going on. Just mentioned, Canada's an ally. We've got Canada has fabulous uranium deposits in Athabasca, obviously super high grade, vast, but not so easy, right? Deep, you have to freeze the earth. You need robots because it's super high grade, complicated. You've got access issues, etc. If you can be in the center of Wyoming, we're next to a highway, we're next to high tension power, we're next to the railway. There's labor, there's and we've got lots and lots of uranium. So the opportunities for juniors like ours. Making a bit of a short story long, but I wanted to explain the whole thing. Yes, and it's all happening in the U.S. Money is pouring into the technology to upgrade, conversion, enrichment, everything in the uranium fuel cycle that I'm sure a lot of your audience understands.
Yeah.
And state sovereign funds are going to be applied to invest in these technologies inside states. So much we could talk about, but yeah, it's all happening.
Yeah, certainly. And lastly, and wrapping up, what's the outlook for Myriad Uranium over the next sort of 6 to 12 months? And is there anything else that you want to share with our audience?
We have some new results coming out relating to past drilling. As I mentioned, that when we assay our samples, we're getting a lot more uranium than the probe detects. This is because of a phenomenon called disequilibrium. We've got a bunch of catalysts coming out, more assays. We're likely to merge with our deal partner, Rush Rare Metals. It's going to increase our market cap, make us eligible for ETFs. We're going to look at a U.S. listing, NASDAQ, NYSE. That's going to be a huge catalyst. The U.S. market is really excited about investing in us. We have a lot of trading down there. I think that's going to be attaching a rocket booster to us. We have a lot of drilling that's coming up. That's going to be very exciting. And then definitely several surprises for the investing public are coming because it's a very dynamic area, and there are very, very few large-scale brownfield uranium projects that are available like ours. Your guest on your previous podcast, Byfield? Is it?
Yeah.
Byfield?
Yeah.
By the way, that was a great podcast. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
This is your previous guest. But he mentioned that, this is the time for brownfield projects. It really is. And we've got a great one in the Copper Mountain. And I invite everybody to, even if you don't invest, put it on your ticker and watch how we evolve. I think it's going to be a very interesting company to watch, how we build the company, grow it, and hopefully achieve a really nice either liquidity event for investors or, something that really unlocks for the investors.
Yeah, great. Thomas, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story, telling us about Myriad Uranium, and the huge potential that may lie ahead, with obviously all that past data, and obviously using AI and the up-to-date technology that's available to everyone to really, really get into this project and make it happen. If our audience wants to follow the story, reach out to you if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that, and what social media platform channels are you on?
Great. We're on all of them: LinkedIn, Twitter, our website, myriaduranium.com. My email is up there. My phone number is easy to find. And I do actually, I invite people to send me a WhatsApp or a text message if you ever want to engage. Happy to talk about whatever I can within the bounds of what I'm able to disclose. Please contact us. Please follow us on social media. Yep. At Myriad Uranium.
Yeah, great. We'll include those in the show notes to cover this. Easy access to all our listeners and subscribers. Well, all the best for the remainder of the year going into 2026. Perhaps you want to come on the podcast sometime next year and give us an update.
Be very happy to. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Uranium is obviously coming back into the market now. Had a probably year or two where The news flow in uranium was a little bit quiet, but I think it's coming back into the news now in the mining industry. So please keep sharing these episodes far and wide, not just across North America, but globally as well. Appreciate your continued support. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.